So welcome back, guys, to We Talk Boxing. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the news which came out yesterday in regards to Chris Eubanks Jr. and Conor Benn. They are set to have a rematch later this year. September the 20th, to be precise, is the date which has been touted out there currently. Things could change, maybe, in terms of date and maybe venue. The venue hasn't been listed yet, but the most important thing is that the rematch has been announced, which is good for both guys because they know exactly where they're going next, who they're going to be fighting, etc. So the camps could or maybe have already been started, and they know exactly what they have to do. Now, there's been a lot been said of this fight in terms of should they or shouldn't they have a rematch. Now, in my opinion, I personally don't think they should have a rematch, and that's coming from you're never going to top what was produced on the night. And I mean that with no disrespect to both guys, because what they did was, to me, one of the best fights that I've seen live, and probably could go down as maybe fight of the year. We don't know yet what the rest of the year, how the rest of the year pans out in terms of fights, but that certainly will be up there at the end of the year as potential for fight of the year. Both guys left everything in the ring. They put their heart and soul on the line, and the whole atmosphere was 10 out of 10, and there wasn't a person in that stadium that night who left thinking that was a shit event. Now, the only sad thing about the event, I felt the undercard fights didn't live up to its hype, but that's got nothing to do with the main event. I'm here to talk about the main event. Now, should they fight? As I mentioned a second ago, I don't believe they should because of that reason, but I could understand why they are. And I feel that the main driving point for this rematch is money. Now, both fighters are going to get paid very, very handsomely for this fight, and when you look at where they've been for the last couple of years, yeah, why not? If you can make a lot of money, you know what I mean, having two fights back to back against each other, why not? Because technically both guys will earn it and will deserve it. Now, Conor Benn, we know the saga that he's had in regards to the testing and not being able to fight, having only a couple of drib-drab fights in between, probably not even making as much money as what he probably would have if he didn't test positive. And you know what I mean, he would have been in far bigger fights, earning a lot more money. So for him, this fight makes extraordinary sense because he's probably still having to pay back some money for maybe legal fees, etc. Who knows? We don't really know the ins and outs of his finances, but he probably would be paying something back in regards to what happened. But Chris Eubanks Jr., when he's looking at his options, he probably thought that this is the biggest paying fight right now. I've already beat the man once. I know I could beat him again. So why not just go in there again, beat him, and then who knows what the end of the year may bring, and might be able to get a world title shot after that fight. So he's probably looking at it in maybe a smarter, more practical sense. But for me personally, it would have been a bigger fight if both guys would have went back down to their respective divisions. Let's say, for example, Conor Benn, if he somehow went back down to 147 and maybe challenged one of the world champions in that division, whether that be Brian Norman Jr., who I think is a very, very good welterweight prospect after watching his last few fights, or maybe someone like a what's the other guy? It's not Barrios. Barrios is fighting Pacquiao. Let me just have a look at the records to see who. I should know that. Bear with me a second. Rolly Romero. How could I forget? Anyway, Rolly Romero. Now, for me, Rolly Romero is a hit and miss type of fighter. Yes, he performed well against Ryan Garcia, but that wasn't a real true Ryan Garcia performance. He looked timid and shy. Didn't really look like he wanted to be in there for me. But Rolly Romero could be a great fighter, or it could be one of these that you get in there with a nobody and perform really awful. So I would have probably backed and put quite a lot of money on Conor Benn beating him, whereas Brian Orman Jr. probably not right now. I'm not saying never, but not right now. A few more fights potentially, because I think Brian Orman Jr. is probably gonna be the man in that division, to be honest. Barrios is decent, but I think Barrios is beatable as well. And I think I give maybe a 50-50 chance or 60-40 in terms of Barrios' favour. But also there's a vacant IBF belt because the main man in the welterweight division's moved up to 154, and that's Jaron Ennis. So there's a vacant belt there for Conor Benn. So why didn't he try and go for that belt? Couldn't he have maybe enticed maybe the winner of Crocker and Paddy Donovan into a fight and then beat them and win an IBF championship belt, become a world champion? And then what about Chris Eubanks Jr.? Like, he would have had options in his division, his middleweight division, 160. We know that Hamza Shiraz has moved up, so that guy's not going to be calling for that fight, which is a good thing for Eubanks Jr. But the champions in that division, apart from Carlos Damas, who I think is the real deal, very good champion, very good fighter. Like Janabek, I think is a very, very good, strong, solid opponent, very strong world champion in the division. But I think it wouldn't be the hardest fight for Eubanks Jr. to potentially win and beat. And the same with Elislandy Lara. I think he's a very, very good, experienced fighter, world champion at the minute, obviously with the WBA. But I think both of them two fights probably would have been better for Eubanks Jr. and would have given him an opportunity to try and become a world champion. And if he was successful, then he would have had a belt to claim. And similar to Conor Benn, if he was successful, he'd have a belt to claim. Then both guys being world champions going into that rematch, how much bigger, would that fight be? Would have been absolutely humongous, and they would have got paid a lot more. But who knows what could happen in this rematch? I know where my money is currently. As I sit here now, I know it's early days, but this time I'm probably edging more towards Conor Benn. And the reason being, when I sit down and I watch their last performance and I've seen kind of body language, etc., I think Conor Benn has the ability to learn from his mistakes and put things right in terms of progress and try and change his game slightly, because both of them, for me, both guys at times were nullifying each other's work. They were getting a little bit too close. When one was throwing, they would sometimes get a little bit too close and end up trying to punch at a very, very, very close range, and they were just, shots weren't really working. But if one guy just took that half a step back, that punch or punches would have landed on its button and maybe caused a lot more harm. So for me, I think that Conor Benn has that pedigree to potentially change, because he's still learning. He hasn't had an extensive amateur career, so I think he's probably, for me, just got that little bit more. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a late stoppage as well. I think the weight is a massive issue for Chris Eubanks Jr., the rehydration. Now, hopefully, we don't know the ins and outs, but hopefully that £10 rehydration clause isn't in there, because I felt as if that ruined the first fight as well, because you could see how much drained Eubanks Jr. was after the fight as well. So, yeah, let's wait and see in terms of the actual details of that. But the first fight was an instant classic for me. And if the second fight is 50% or 60% of the first fight, then it would be a good fight as well for people to watch. And hopefully the saga between the Benns and the Eubanks could potentially be finally finished and put to bed. But I doubt it. But anyway, these are my thoughts in regards to the fight that was announced. And hopefully, as I said, let's wait and see what happens in the near future. And closer to the date, I will do my final thoughts video in regards to who I believe is going to win the fight, etc. But at the minute, as I said, I'm pretty much banking with Benn at this moment in time. But as always, please subscribe and comment. Bless.